Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are back with officially, I guess this is officially season 2. Is it? Yeah. We still haven't figured that out, but we're going to go
Well,
with it.
okay,
Yeah.
then it's official, I guess. That's you made it official.
Episode 101, season number 2.
Now, for everybody listening or watching, that's called an executive decision that John just made.
Right. And I
He
don't even know if
started the position and made a decision right then there on the spot and took a position, and that's what it is. We're in season 2 now.
I don't even know if that's how you do it. Like if that's how you do seasons and episodes and stuff. All I know is that we dropped the ish.
Yes,
From
well,
the yes,
that's a new season, then new beginning, if you
new
will,
beginning.
new
Yes.
new level of advancement.
Yeah.
We no longer are in the double digits; we're in the triple digits. So we got to do something different.
Hey, it's exciting, man. It feels like another a milestone has been reached, and now we have another hill to climb.
Yeah, we got to work. What's the next milestone?
200,
500?
200.
200? Okay.
Doing 100 increments because that's like every year, right? Every year would be about 100.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm. So
Since we,
episode 500 would be 5 years into this journey.
yeah, that would.
You sound thrilled.
Well, it's just it's since we don't take vacation, since we preach consistency and we have no lives, that yeah, we
Yeah.
show up twice a week. So
Mm.
yeah, and maybe we'll get radical at some point and go 3 times a week and really overload these people. With the
Ah,
way Hive's expanding, we might have to.
I, dude. Did you see my post that I did this week? I mean, you did
Yeah, which
comment.
one? The what's wrong with Hive?
What's wrong with Hive post?
Yeah,
Mm.
I even commented on it. So yes, I
Yeah.
saw the post. I commented. How do I
Dude,
comment without seeing the
well,
post?
that's what I was just about to say. Yeah, you did comment. Yeah. Well, maybe you just, you're scanning the interwebs and, you didn't see it. You just knew that I made a post and you wanted to comment. I don't know. But no, it was interesting seeing some of the feedback on that. It had quite a few comments, and the one thing that I went over was a guy was there talking about something that you mention a lot, and he actually said that this would happen. He said that there could be a hostile takeover because they could do a side deal with a witness or something like that with a lot of Hive, and they could and I'm sitting there trying to figure it out. It's like, well, no, because that would still only be, let's say if they had a million Hive, that's just a million Hive. And he's like,
Hmm.
well, there's not enough liquidity out there on the markets. It's like, okay, so it'd be a side deal. So if you're going to buy a million Hive on a side deal, that's fine, but that still doesn't give you control.
Even if you want to buy block trades, I mean, what does block trades have? 3.5%. I mean, it's
Right.
Freedom. I think is still the biggest account, and nobody knows who the hell Freedom is. So you're not going to buy Freedom. So if you went and bought block trades, okay, great. What do you control? 3.5%. You got 10, maybe 12 million Hive out of 360 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a significant portion, but it's still not going to give you control. The problem was with the Ninja Mine, Justin Sun went and cut a side deal, and he got like 70 million steam.
Right. Yeah.
So
There's not 70. No one account holds even close to that in Hive.
yeah, I mean, block
Mhm.
trades is at, I don't know what he's at, 10, 12 million, somewhere in there.
Right.
And Freedom's at like 5%. So, it's maybe 15 million.
Right.
Uh, and so what do you need to gain control? 20%, 25%. So you got to go block trades. You can't find out who Freedom is. So I don't know
Mhm.
who the top ones are, but you got block trades up there. You got They Call Me Dan.
Mhm.
Um, which neither of them are going to be selling anyway. But
Right.
if you did get a hold of them, I mean, I don't know who has 2 and 3 million. Maybe Markey. I don't know how much Markey has. Um, but to align all those people to get yourself to 25%, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not getting Dan steak.
No.
You're probably, unless you're willing to pay a huge premium, you're not going to get Marky's stake.
Yeah.
You're not going to get Block Trade's stake.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's
And this was the other thing I said. I said, even if they do, let's say the stars align, and let's say this 25 million, the blockchain will just fork. You
yeah.
know.
I mean, that's always we've proven the nuclear defense is we will fork, and
Mm,
um, especially if that happened and somebody like Block Trades was against it. I mean, he already knows how to spin up the infrastructure, and
right.
so do a number of other people. So it it's very very difficult at this point to levy an attack against Hive, and it's getting harder every day because as much as some people object to the proof of brain at the base layer, it does put more tokens each day in my account, in your account, in
Mhm.
Dan's account, in other people's accounts, and even smaller accounts who are now dedicated and loyal to this blockchain. As I've said, if you get somebody with 100 HP and they move to 200 HP, that doubled their influence.
Yeah.
And if they're loyal and they're dedicated now, that's 100 extra HP that is being locked in on quote unquote our side if there was uh, an attack.
Right.
And we found out from Sonny Boy how a lot of those smaller accounts coupled together can add up into some pretty significant influence. And I think 2 years later, it's spread out even more.
Hmm.
Plus, we also have other shit that we can tap into and bring in. So if there is an attack, you can go into some of your other tokens and some of your other holdings, which are bigger than they were 2 years ago, and simply start buying Hive and powering it up.
Yep.
So,
Like you said, there's nuclear defenses here. So, um, dude, we are again, like we mentioned, episode 101. So it's only fitting that we have a whole bunch of questions that we were getting to last week. So I guess we'll just go over them all again. Sounds good.
okay.
Yeah.
I think we only did one. So
Yeah, I think we only did one too, but I forget what we talked about. So
I think it was the first one on the list.
yeah, you never know. It could be. Anyways, this was the post from last week, and it was DevPress. Share some business ideas which can be done on the blockchain. I'm always in
Yeah, we
search
went
of
through
this.
that one.
Right, and that was where it was like everything doesn't necessarily have to
Yes.
be on the blockchain.
Yes.
Um, so I would just to revisit this just a quick second. Um, you got to ask yourself: does it have to be on a
Hmm.
distributed ledger? Does it have to be? If not, you don't necessarily have to build it. But businesses, like I think the more it becomes entrepreneurial friendly, you're going to see newer business models
Well,
come on
I
board.
think it's like listeners. You basically listeners is centralized, listeners is server based, but you tokenized it. So that obviously incorporates blockchain. So the emails
Yeah,
and the activity on listeners does not end up on blockchain. And even the token activity on listeners doesn't end up on blockchain.
right.
But when you move your CTP from Hive Engine to listeners or vice versa, or take your listeners and put it on Hive Engine, then you're looking at a different scenario and you're tied to blockchain.
Yep. Yep. So that's what could potentially happen. You're going to see tokenized business opportunities,
Mhm.
tokenized, you know, projects, um, which is exciting. So hopefully that helps. And last week's helped as well. Arcane is up. I am sure by now I am a whale, which I'm not. But since there are probably a lot of new people out there, can you explain the benefits of the different hive levels? So first of all, no. Like I think I mentioned this last week too, that combine yours and my hive power, we're together, not a whale. Because
Mhm.
it's around 550,000
Something
hive
like that.
power,
Yep.
give or take. So there's different levels. Your plankton, the redfish, minnows, dolphins, orcas, whales. So it's just a gamified way of measuring um, your hive power level. So right now, Task and I would be considered orcas because it's over 55, right? 55,000.
Mhm.
Yeah. So 55,000 hive power to 550,000 hive power is considered an orca. So we've got
No
a
way.
long way to go.
550,000 is a whale.
Right.
55,000 orca.
No, I mean like 55 to 555.
Yeah, it's
We have a long way to go, let's say,
yes.
before we're considered whales. So that being said, Task is a whale in Leo. Um, I'm a whale in. I'm not even a whale in CTP because that's funny because I don't.
I don't know if I'm a whale in CTP either. I probably have
Mm,
35,000 combined and 30,000 combined in CTP. I don't know where the breakdown is.
yeah, no, whale in CTP is I think over 100,000
Then
CTP.
I'm not there.
Yeah, I'm not even there. It's a fun story because I lost all of my when we switched from Steam to Hive. I lost all my CTP power with the switch over because I was the account distributor of the token,
Mhm.
so it couldn't be brought over. So I had about I think I had about 80,000 or something CTP from Steam, and it just got wiped out. So I had to start fresh on CTP. So there you go.
Oh.
So, but yeah, just it's just different levels to gamify it. I think it's 0 to 500 is plankton.
Well, yeah, you hit minnow at about 550. So
Right.
some people break down plankton and redfish. I just, you're
Yeah,
whatever to your plankton till 550 and then
yeah. Minnow is like 550 to
550 to 5,500 then is
yeah,
minnow, and then 5,500 would be a dolphin. It's also Arcange does a daily report. It's also a way to figure out distribution, but as you said, it only applies to high power. It doesn't apply to your HBD. It
right,
doesn't apply to your liquid hive. And also, I used to do a monthly report about the hive distribution and how it was spreading out over time. The spreading out over time isn't happening as quickly anymore because people have a lot of other options. And I don't think people are as focused upon high power as much, especially the newer people, as they used to be. They get involved with the Hive Engine tokens and CTP and listeners and Leo and whatnot, and that's great. But it's also diluting, and you and I always talk about, well, when we first got here, there were two things to get,
right. Yeah,
two tokens, and you got paid out in those two tokens. And if you brought in new money, guess what? You had the choice of buying two tokens, and actually one token, because nobody really bought, the stable coin, because it wasn't stable and there was no
right.
reason
Yeah,
really to hold it. So but now you can pull in money from your bank account and go buy Leo, or you can buy CTP, or you can go buy listeners, you can go buy a whole bunch of stuff, and
yeah,
Splinterlands cards, and you name it. The list just keeps going on and on and on. So um, the wealth is growing around the Hive ecosystem. It's just being spread out.
yeah, yeah. Great question though, Mr. Kane. I appreciate it. Chappelle is up, and says, "Do you think that cryptos suffer from the crisis of confidence due to the war in Ukraine, as if this conflict operated in the minds of people a return to the real or a disaffection for the virtual?" I'm not totally sure. I understand.
No, no, I think that's
Mhm.
absurd. Here's the deal. Major cryptocurrencies are still the risk on, risk off. I don't think there's any
Mhm.
way to dispute it. It's not the flight to safety that people believe. It's a simple situation. When the stock market's hit, crypto's going to be hit. They're following pretty much in tandem. If people are taking on more risk, they will be spending more money on crypto. If people are risk averse, they're going to be getting out of crypto just like they're getting out of tech stocks.
Yeah.
The correlation does break momentarily, but it seems the worse the event, the worse the instances, um, it follows course. So the simple fact of the matter is the war in the Ukraine, uh, turning people off from the virtual is not going to happen. It's not turning people back to gold. In fact, an interesting situation about gold is being realized or taught by Russia. Russia piled up and has a shitload of gold.
Mm.
Guess what that means? It means you got a non-liquid asset, because when you have, whatever they got, $300 million worth of gold, or whatever, billions of dollars, whatever they have sitting in gold, you can't
Yeah.
move it very easily, especially if the
Right.
rest of the world is isolating you. And this is a major problem. You know, when it comes to physical, quote unquote, money, when it comes to raw materials, very nobody's richer than Russia. I mean,
Hmm.
you look at what they have in oil, you look at what they have in minerals, you look at what they have in metals. I mean, this country is a mineral rich country, and they're going broke.
Mm.
So that's really where there's no turning back the digital, there's no turning back the virtual. People aren't going to give up their iPhones, people aren't going to stop using the internet. And cryptocurrency is internet money. It is now part of it made up for the gap in the protocols when the original protocols of the internet were designed, because the internet originally was designed to be an information sharing system.
Hmm.
It wasn't designed for commerce. And that's where the PayPal mafia and John's favorite company, or one of his favorite companies, came from, is the ability to create something that wasn't at the protocol level. That gave us commerce. Uh, and of course, we know that ended up all siloed. Well, cryptocurrency
Mm.
reverses that and says, we do have peer to peer exchange of value. We do have peer to peer transactions now, and we can handle commerce natively across the internet. So, no, I don't think that anything, the war in the Ukraine is reversing course. And quite frankly, in terms of uh, global situations, and I don't want to minimize the impact of war, especially for those in Ukraine. It's horrific, but this is nothing compared to the lockdown of due to COVID 2 years ago.
Mm. Yeah.
And quite frankly, it may not be much compared to what could spring
Mm.
out of this if we do have famines breaking out all over the place, which some are already can happen in the next 12 to 18 months, because you know the lack of wheat that will see its way to market, and a lot of other foods and fertilizers. We could see hundreds of millions suffering from famine in the next 18 months. That would be a much bigger global catastrophe. But,
Yeah.
that's still not going to reverse the trend away from digitization, virtualization. I mean, you know, they're still building more batteries. They're still, pumping out more chips. There's still more computers being produced, and more phones are being bought every day. It's
Yeah.
not stopping. Now the price could get crushed, and that's why John and I always talk about ignore price.
Hmm.
Markets will do what markets do, and they're driven by fear and greed primarily.
Stay away from the price, folks. It's bad for your health. Thank you for the question, Chappelle. Jay Fang is up, and this is a personal question. Does Task know what the name of Project Blank really is, and does he have a general idea of when it will be released? From what I saw in Leo Market Talk, Task has been talking to Cal, so I was hoping to get some nice insider information.
I If I am hooked up and strapped to a chair, and you use some of those CIA truth telling serums that like access parts of the subconscious brain, then yes, I do know the name of Project Blank. At a conscious level, as I've said before, I forgot the name of Project Blank. I cannot for the life of me remember it. Um, so it's not Project Blank. I do know that. And I did ask Cal when he was on if it was the same original name. So, and he said yes. So
Mhm.
somewhere deep in the recess of my mind, I do have it, but I can't put my finger on it. No, I do not have any 411 on the release of Project Blank. I have not delved into that with Cal whatsoever. I had a couple conversations with him about collateralizations and ideas I've had there, which he was already running with, but he incorporated, I think, some of my ideas or will incorporate them in. And also, I threw out there the HBD,
Mm.
which I don't know if he was thinking about, but he's already come out and said that's going to be incorporated in. But no, I did not talk to him about Project Blank. I presume at this point, um, that's a good way to get him not to answer a DM because he's probably doesn't have any more information than he had, when he was on 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it
Mm.
was. So, but no, I have no idea when that'll be. You know, I don't even know. I mean, the model was to watch the updates on the mobile, and since I don't have the mobile on my phone, I don't use it. I don't even know if there's been updates rolled out with that, if they're having trouble with that. They mentioned
Mm.
something about the mobile during the AMA, but I kind of zoned out during that part. So I'm just going to presume they're still working on the mobile, and since the mobile is not yet released out of whatever they call it, alpha or beta, or it's not even that. They have it, whatever Apple calls the testing thing.
Oh,
Um,
test flight. Yeah.
Test flight, that's it.
Mm.
Until you're out of there, I'm going to say that the mobile is not ready for prime time, which means Project Blank is just still further down the road. So until you get
Mhm.
the mobile out of test flight, I don't think you can even start thinking about talking about Project Blank in terms of a release date.
Mm.
Just my guess, but that's what I think about it.
Yep. There you go. Good question, Jay Fang. Good attempt at trying to get some insider information out. But we'll work on that for later. The road to freedom is up. And he said, I have just started to have a small amount of my paycheck direct deposited into my crypto account. Would I be better served focusing on all additional capital into one interest for like index, for example, or splitting it up into to increase several interests simultaneously, like Splinterlands, listeners, etc. Bonus question: if just one, what would be a good one to focus on initially to be able to reinvest earnings into those additional interests? Now, obviously, for me, this is not financial advice. This is what I would do. This is what I did. It's not even what I would do. It's what I did. And it goes back to what Tass just said about like when we got started, we didn't really have any options. It was either Steam or Steam back dollars or blockchain dollars, whatever they called it. That was it. We didn't really have anything. So my choices were very limited, and what it did was allow me to focus on Hive Power, Steam Power back then. Because of that, the trickle down effect happened. So what I did was focused on Hive Power. Once my Hive Power started steamrolling, pardon the pun, it transformed into all these different avenues, the index tokens, the Splinterlands assets, the listeners, the CTPs, the Leos. These weren't around. So I guess it's different because 4 or 5 years ago these weren't around. Now you
Mhm.
have more options, but I still maintain I believe Hive Power is the freaking best thing out there when you're starting or when you want to build up for future things. People, oh, it's only 2.78 or whatever percent or whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's not what it's not just that. You're getting that by sitting on it and doing absolutely nothing. The more active you are with it, the more it actually earns. So
Mhm.
passively, yeah, sure. Give it to d- delegate it to Leo voter. You'll get
Mhm.
great APR with that. Delegate it to
16%.
Yeah, delegate it to the listeners account. You'll get great APR with that. Delegate, go ahead but see, that's the options it brings when you focus on Hive Power. Then you can turn that and flip it into other things. So what I did was just focus on building Hive Power. But what do you think, Task?
Well, I agree with you 1,000%. It's, these are, we can only share what we did in hindsight, and our hindsight, we were rather limited, so we didn't have any choices.
Right.
Um, it's what I would suggest if you are going to go with a couple different options, limited to three, maybe four, because then you're spreading yourself too thin.
Right.
Um, what to do and how to grow it and roll it. High power is a great thing to do, but you could also make the case, take that money, throw it into HBD savings, get 12%. And then when you claim each month, you take those HBD and then you can roll into high power, you can roll into some other things. So you can work it in reverse. The one nice thing
Mm,
about high power is it does lead to other things. It increases your influence on chain. Um, it does get you certain levels of recognition that, rightly or wrongly, as you move up the scale, you start to get noticed. Um, so those are options out there. Um, but if you're looking at it from just a passive cash in standpoint,
mm,
HBD is hard to beat at 12% and saying, if I want to take a little money and put it aside out of each paycheck for it to grow over the years, that HBD savings is pretty nice. And as I wrote this morning, there's other things coming with HBD. And so, having a little money there is probably not a bad idea with some other, you'll have options off of that going forward.
yeah. Yep. Yep. Very good point. Thank you for the question, sir. Chris is up. He said, "This question has been gnawing at me for some time, and I try as I will on my own. I cannot find the answer. In Splinterlands, under my airdrop points, there is an SPT Splinterland Splinter Talk token balance. Where does that number come from? It does not match the amount I have staked or liquid in Hive Engine. Is there some place in the game I have not found yet?" So this is actually in the white paper for SPS. And you will get your SPT tokens at 1/4. So if you have 4 Splinter Talk tokens, you'll get 1 airdrop point. So for every 4 SPT tokens you hold, you'll get 1 airdrop point. That's how the math works. So it's actually in the white paper for SPS, um, which I don't even know if is around anymore. Maybe it is. It is. If you click on what is SPS inside of Splinterlands, they'll have the white paper there, and that's where you get the breakdown of how you get each point. So just to remember, the Splinter Talk. This is why I think Splinter Talk tokens are such a great value if you're looking at SPS, because most people have undervalued these things tremendously. You can get a whole bunch of SPT tokens for dirt cheap, and it translates into really decent SPS drops every day. So, yeah, it's for every 4 SPT tokens you get 1 airdrop point. So that's the math of it. There you go. Hope that helps. Task. How's your Splinterlands journey going? It's good. Yeah.
I keep staking my SPS. That's my journey.
Pretty simple stuff, huh?
Yeah, I keep it very
Mm.
simple. I do roll my uh, vouchers over and buy SPS. I roll my deck over and because I have some of Neil and
Right.
Gerber's tokens, so they give me some deck each day, and so I roll that over. And I think having index gets me a little deck also. So I just take, I just, we had McSpadden on at the beginning of February, and I just take his advice. If you're not playing the game, if you're not deep into the game, just keep
SPS.
get in SPS. That's a great way to, long term to, have exposure. And so that's what I'm doing.
Yep. Yep. Good question though, Chris. Appreciate it. Lisa, who was one of our winners from the Hive giveaway. And you know, Lisa's a star. You know what she did? She took it, she flipped it, and bought more tokens with the money. like
Yeah, she bought listener
yeah, she bought
insight.
listeners. She didn't even take it. It's great. I love it. Um, are there are there any circumstances which would cause you to change the amount of fiat you're investing in crypto on a weekly basis? I have been tempted a few times to up the amount I'm investing because of the fees on Coinbase. Yeah. As it stands, I haven't done that. I have just been selling off other tokens in Hive Engine Wallet. I was just curious if you have ever spent more or less in any given week. Abso-freaking-lutely I have. Especially when things start selling. That's usually what, like, for going back to the example we just had with SPT. I'm a big fan of SPT because I think that a game plan, once Splinterlands understands how massively powerful that platform is for their members, you have a million plus people that are still not even using Splinter Talk. What happens when a whole bunch of them start realizing that they can get paid and rewarded for talking about the game? Now there's a community there, but what happens when more and more people get that? So what happens is you see SPT go down. I mean, it's dirt cheap. It's penny, like less than a penny, less than a fraction of a penny for one. So when I see it in the red, I get a little frisky. I usually buy a little bit more. And now this is not dollar cost averaging, because you're not dollar cost averaging it. This is me just trying to get a good deal. So personally, for me, my dollar cost averaging into projects doesn't really change, but sometimes if I see a deal, I'll pick it up. So I don't know. What do you think, Task?
Well, I have no job, which
Okay.
matches the number of friends that I have. So I have no
Perfect.
fiat. So I got no job, no friends, and no fiat. The fiat that I have stashed away. That's what I live off of. So I don't buy in on a weekly basis or anything like that. Um, you certainly taking fees into account is very smart. If you're not playing with enough and you're finding the fees are eating you up, you have the choice to either increase the amount you invest or maybe do it every other week. So, the fees as a percentage of the whole are a lot less because you're going to pay your transaction fee for Litecoin or whatever the hell you use. So if it costs you $2 for the transaction on Litecoin, if you're playing with $4, that's 50%. If you're playing with $8, that's only 25%. If you're playing with $16, that's even less. So that's one way to look at it, is to change the frequency that you take the fiat off of Coinbase and get involved. Now,
Mhm.
in terms of increasing the amount that you're putting in every week or 2 weeks, again, that's a personal choice, but with the way it looks crypto's going, uh, when I listen to somebody like Raoul Pal who says 80% of his capital is in cryptocurrency and his investments, that's very telling. And that's really, where are you going for, that life changing money? Yeah, you can find life changing money in certain investments, but I'm a big Tesla fan, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to say Tesla is going to go up 100x. In fact, I think Tesla probably has a very difficult 10x issue, from the levels it's at. But you can find 10x and 20x and 100x in crypto. So, you know, plus you can get 20%, 30%, 60% returns pretty easily. I mean, you look at Cup. Cub's paying 60% in the kingdom and it's at like 20 cents or 25 cents. Will Cub be 250 at some point? I don't know, but I'm getting 60% plus I got the chance that it'll go up 5x or 10x. So, the opportunities within crypto, the opportunities that we're seeing in Polycup, the opportunities within DeFi, they're really astounding. So, if you have extra fiat, getting that money into crypto is probably not a bad idea, in my opinion.
Mm,
Then the other thing I want to respond to is what you said, John, and it's very interesting. The transition from we could only get steam power and SBD. Um, you just mentioned an approach you have to Splinterlands. That approach isn't right. That approach isn't wrong. That approach is your approach. And there's
mm,
other approaches, and that's what you do. And that's the amazing thing. I mean, I'm taking a different approach. I'm just going in and getting SPS. Somebody else can be going after the card. Somebody else can be, and that's just one game. You can also be going elsewhere. You can be going to listeners. You can be going to
mm,
CTP. You can be going to Polycub. I mean, all these different choices and approaches with each. I mean, you're taking your extra Leo and you're going to Cup. I'm going to
mm.
X Poly Cup. I mean, it's just, and somebody posted that today in Leo Finance. Do I go Cup or do I go X Poly Cup? And I'm like, I don't know if you can go wrong with either, but I go X Poly Cup at this point. Others are going Cup. It's
Well,
the
I go Cub to get the airdrop so I can
I
go X
understand why
Cup.
you're
You know?
doing it, and
Yeah.
but you'd end up getting more Polycub by being in X Polycub than you
Mm,
do with what you're doing. However, you will also get a bigger airdrop on TerraCub than because that's based on your Cub. Your X Polycub has nothing to do with that. So,
right.
there's trade-offs, and you're making a choice to add to your Cub, which is increasing your X Polycub right now in the airdrop, plus increase in the ensuing airdrops that take place as they roll out a new project.
Mm,
I'm not going to say that's wrong either because it's not. It's an approach, and it's one that'll work out very well. So I don't think there's a bad approach here. There's a wrong answer because even with your SPT, well, guess what? You're getting rewarded instantly because it instantly increases your airdrop point value, which gets you more SPS.
yep.
And then if you're staking that
Mm,
immediately, well, guess what? That's compounding it. If you're taking it and using the SPS to go buy something else, well, obviously you're doing that because you feel that'll gain. So, that's the interesting part of all of this. It's just like, I mean, you and I can sit here and share our strategies about different things, but doesn't mean that those are the only ways to do things.
mm, yep. That's a good
A lot of
point.
choices.
Thank you for the question, Lisa. Yakingo is up. I'm curious to know what you think about cryptocurrencies as a refuge against inflation and how the Federal Reserve rate hikes can affect them.
Nothing. I mean,
Mm,
again, it's a risk on, risk off. Federal Reserve rate hikes, you read the paper right on the St. Louis Fed. They will tell you their movement of the federal Fed fund rate and the 10-year have absolutely no correlation. So I expect rates to go up for a little while till everybody realizes the economy's shit, and then you'll end up seeing rates go down. This is what happened in 2013 when the Fed tapered. It happened in 2018 when the Fed tightened. And guess what? The economy ended up going to shit, and interest rates ended up going down.
mm,
Cryptocurrency, as I said before, it's still viewed as volatile. I don't think inflation has any inclination into it. I think it's just basically if people are taking on risk, they are going to pile in with spec because when people take on risk, they speculate. When people
mhm,
take risk off the table, they stop the speculation. Those of us involved in cryptocurrency, we're not changing what we're doing. John and I show up each day. John, if he's still drooling all over a Splinterlands card, he'll take his money out of his account that he has and he'll go buy that Splinterland card. That's just what he does. He's consistent about it. And if the price hits a level that he says, you know what, I got to go get this now, he'll go get it now. Um, it's
true.
not really a situation where the macroeconomic or situation is implying and it is affecting any of our decisions.
Mm,
So I think your bigger players, your Bitcoin buyers, people like that, your traders, that's all affected by that stuff because that's just market conditions. But those who are building, those who are heavily involved in the play to earn, those who are involved in a blockchain like Hive, it's just show up. And the last question with Lisa, I mean, she's asking increasing and decreasing. She had nothing to do with the macroeconomic situation. Her question was based upon fees.
Right.
So, there's a prime example of somebody who's playing with some money and she's feeding continually some money into crypto, but she's not doing it as a hedge against inflation. She's not doing it, because the dollar will collapse or the euro will collapse or whatever. She's doing it simply because she believes that over the long term, this is a good place for her money as an
Mm.
investment, and whatever she ultimately ends up buying will improve her standing and her influence in whatever arena she's going into. So, I don't think the inflation, deflation, and the inflation situation can reverse course very quickly, in my opinion. People seem to think all this shit only goes one direction. Well, we're going to see in the next year or two with housing that housing doesn't always go up, inflation doesn't always go up, and economies don't always go up.
Mm.
Just like with Bitcoin, Bitcoin went up till Bitcoin didn't go up.
Yeah. That kind of answers the next question too. Iron Shield said, "What are your thoughts on inflation and crypto strategies to help get around it?" Um, kind of plays off that answer too. Mm.
I'll add another thing. Everybody talks about the great inflation tool, gold.
Yeah.
Since this thing, I mean, gold's been trading sideways for probably 15 months, maybe even 18 months. It's been in a range. If this is, and every gold bug will tell you, oh, you got to get into gold because of inflation. You got to get into
Mm.
Bitcoin because of inflation. Well, if gold has a 5,000-year track record and is the ultimate hedge against inflation, why is it going sideways? And I know the gold maxis will sit there and say, oh, that's because it's manipulated and
Mm.
all this other shit. Well, if that's the case, then it's a shitty hedge, because inflation is at a 40-year high, but for a year and a half, gold's been trading sideways.
Yeah.
It's gone up to 2,000, it's gone down to 1,800, back up to 2,000. It just keeps bouncing around. So, this is, it's all, in my opinion, supply chain shocks. It started with the lockdowns due to COVID. Certainly, the situation with the Ukraine and Russia has only hurt it even more. So, we're going to be in it for a tough road. You're in a commodity bull market on top of things. Is there really a hedge? you know, Certain things are going to start crashing as the economy starts to crash. Wait till you see what the some of the restaurants have to start doing with their food prices, or see what happens when the price of clothing, non-essentials are going to start to go down in price because people are spending more on food and energy. I mean, those are two things you can't get around. Um, so what happens? Well, all that discretionary spending goes out the window, and so we've already seen it in the last report, the CPI. A lot of that discretionary stuff like food, clothing, and stuff went down.
Mm.
Food and energy are still through the roof. So, it depends on what you're buying. And you're buying a Tesla right now, you're going to be paying a much greater price. Um, there's just no way around that. But you're
Mm.
buying a pair of shoes, you might find them on sale.
There you go. Good question. David's got a good one here. So congratulations on the 100th episode. Thank you. I
Thank you.
find it hard to tell the difference between centralized and decentralized cryptocurrencies. How could how would be the best way to tell the difference? Hive is decentralized, but I just learned that Splinterlands is centralized. I was surprised to learn this, and now I want to know which ones are which so I can support the decentralized ones.
Well,
Um,
most of
mm,
your layer two is going to be
right,
projects are going to be
centralized.
centralized,
Yeah.
because they have somebody behind it. It's either a corporation, a company, venture capitalist, something like that. So from the true base layer level, well, then you got the base layer level where you have foundations like Ethereum is not decentralized in the token distribution, which right now doesn't matter because it's a proof of work blockchain. So the token distribution means nothing. but they're switching to proof of stake, which all of a sudden Vitalik and some of the other founders, plus the Ethereum Foundation, their stake means a lot because they're like Steemit Inc. used to be. Well, they got
Right.
a large stake. So that's where, Charlie Shrem, when he was talking to Starkers, he says there's two decentralized blockchain, two decentralized cryptocurrencies out there, in his opinion. Hive, because we did away with the ninja mine and we put it in the DAO, and Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And you probably have a few others, but uh, you know, on the proof of work, you got to look at the mining breakdown, and that's a pain in the ass. But you look at that. On the proof of stake, you have to look at the wallets and the delegation, the wallet distribution. And when you see, as we were just talking earlier about the takeover and the article you put up, John, when you have somebody, your top holders are 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
That's nothing compared to the Ethereum Foundation with 40%, or with the top 5 wallets or top 10 wallets on EOS having over 50%.
Right. Right.
That's where you start to say, okay, these aren't truly decentralized. So, but that's not the end of the world. Again, Splinterlands being centralized does not take away from Splinterlands by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Splinterlands is owned by a company, and they have a lot of tokens and a lot of different things. Now, the assets in the game, just because Splinterlands is a centralized company doesn't mean that John doesn't hold his deck and own that. That's in his wallet.
Yeah.
Those SPS tokens are in his wallet. The SPT tokens are in his wallet. So it's not as if, you know, and you could even make the case, well, Bitcoin is truly centralized because like 5 mining pools do like 80% of the transactions.
Hmm.
Okay, that's probably true. Could you wage a 51% attack? Probably not, because you're not going to get the 5 mining pools to agree on anything. It's like, could you wage an attack by going after the Hive witnesses? Yeah, but to get 17 Hive witnesses to agree on anything in a backdoor way, it ain't going to happen. Half of them don't like are going to take the opposite side just because they don't like the other side. Um, so that's really where it comes down to when you game theory this stuff and then you look in reality. It's like, getting consensus on a lot of things with 20 people is very difficult. Then getting major mining pools to agree and to do nefarious things when they're making a boatload of money, they're not going to do it. Where the centralized, decentralized argument comes in my opinion, is more with the regulation. On Bitcoin, nobody's door can they knock on. On Hive, nobody's door they can knock on. I mean, we were on a call about the Hive film the other day, and Block Trade's got like a cease and desist order for that from Hive Blockchain LTD,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just laughed at it and threw it in the garbage because it's like, what does he have control over? He has control over nothing.
Right.
He has 3% of the stake. Big deal.
Yeah.
That it's not his blockchain. He doesn't run it. So that's the difference. Can they go after and knock on the door of the Ethereum Foundation? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Can they? They did it with Luna. The guy who started Luna,
Mm.
he got served at some conference in New York. I mean,
Mm.
he's an Asian guy, and I think he's from South Korea. And he was in New York at some conference, and they served him. Uh,
Mm. Like
you know,
everything on Binance is centralized. Like everything. The
yeah,
BSC,
I mean,
right?
it's
Right.
because CZ, they're basically sock puppets,
Mm.
from what I hear.
Mm.
And again, does that make BSC a bad chain to operate?
No. No.
No, not at
Mm.
all. But again, it's if you're looking at truly decentralized stuff, buy Hive and powered up and support that. That's
There you go.
that's about the best answer. Get yourself a little Bitcoin.
Raymond Baxter in chat says Baldy 1 and Baldy 2. Hello. Hello, Raymond.
Yeah, he's only saying that because got all that
Full
hair.
follicles.
Yeah, that he's not part of the follicly challenge. But hey, don't forget Joe Rogan. He has the same hairstyle as me and John. So
Exactly. Thank you for the question, David. I hope that helps. It's okay to be into Splinterlands, even if it is centralized. It's okay. Tokenized Society. Hello, maniacs. I have a listener's question this week. Can't help it. I've gone full nerd. I agree. Same with me, man.
well, wait, John, wait. Let's do
Yep.
a little housekeeping promo. On Tuesday, we will have probably an episode that I'm going to say is going to be heavily nerded.
Very nerded.
So
Yes, we have
tune in
Jimmy
Tuesday.
Adames. Yes. Yeah.
Now, that's
King,
not to say don't answer tokenized question because
we have King Nerd and we have Queen Nerd. This is my life as Queen Nerd, and then King Nerd is Jimmy.
Jimmy.
So
Yes.
there you go. Yeah, I was reading actually listeners a little bit of propaganda for you guys. G. Adrian did a post yesterday, and he said that listeners is the greatest DeFi project out there that isn't DeFi. He did the math of it. He said it was like 3,000 to 800% APR. That's what listeners is doing right now. And he did the math for it, and I was like, sure.
How based upon doing
the token, the listeners token, he it's the dude that's way above my pay grade. You'll have to go read his post. He made the comment, and I thought it was the funniest line out there. He's like, it's the best DeFi project out there that isn't DeFi.
So he's saying that listeners is much better than Splinterlands. That's what he's saying.
I just got an ad pop up on Brave browser that's telling me I can get 60% APY. Anyways, getting back to Tokenized Society's question, appreciate the question. Is there a recommended minimum amount of people you should mail to each time? I want to make sure I'm making good use of my mail. As many as you can.
Well, I think what he's saying, should he send it once a week or should he wait till he gets 12 days or 15 days? And that's a valid point. What is your experience?
I am, especially with these type of platforms, I've said this for years. If you go back to any of my old training videos from a decade ago, this is what I said. As often as you can, as many places as you can, just constantly be in front of people, because we are bombarded with 20,000 marketing messages a day. If you think that you're going to stick out from the crowd and get noticed if you show up once a week or once every blue moon, there's a lot of people prying for attention for your potential customer, consumer, follower.
Do you think that applies to listeners? Because we are incentivized to read what comes across and at least open it. And I open up everything. And now, obviously, if I see something from Tokenized, I know him. But and Raymond jumped in, and he started using listeners the last couple of days, so I recognize him. But if and I understand what you're saying in the traditional realm, but do you think that applies to listeners? Because somebody who doesn't have the upgraded account, they come in and you can email once a week, and so you get your mails based upon your CTP holdings, and you know what you open. So if you get 500 emails that you earn during the week, would you be better off holding and doing it till you got 1,000? Instead of sending once a week, you send it once every 2 weeks, but you send it to 1,000 accounts as opposed to 500. Because the goal is ultimately, for a lot of this, is not to sell something. You want to obviously pull people to your blog posts or whatever, but you also want to get the 20 votes. That's how you get paid. And I mean, let's be honest, the overall readership rate, the open rate is not that great. The open rate of the email is not great. The click-through rate's exceptional, but the open rate is still not that great. So, if you get 500 100 emails that you send out, you probably can't get to the 20 upvotes because you may only get 40 people who even open it if you're
Right.
lucky. So, I think that's the gist of it. And maybe this is a good question for Jimmy too next week, what his thoughts are. But, are you better off holding off and going once every 2 weeks so you get enough emails where you get enough openings, because that's a major problem. The click through, is going to be 90%, 85% somewhere strong. And then, the upvotes are going to be a smaller version of that because, a lot of people can't upvote everything that comes across their desk. I mean,
Mm.
you and
And
I,
that's a problem that we have to work on. We actually did a big talk last night in our stream
yeah.
about it, where we need to encourage people to use those vote buttons. A lot of people still they've been hive trained. They think an upvote or downvote like affects reputation, et cetera, when it's actually on listeners, it's there to validate the email. If I see people downvoting my stuff, I change up my stuff because it's telling me that what I'm putting out there isn't attractive to the community. So that's what it was designed to be. But people are so like, oh, I'll just delete the email. I won't vote on it. Or I'll just ignore the email. I'll just click it, but I won't vote it. Um, that's the problem. And we need to do a better
Well,
job of
but
getting that
there's
across.
also a limit. I mean, if you have 500 CTP, you don't have a ton of votes.
Well, 500 CTP, you'd still have a good 20, 30, 40 votes even.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know. I
500
didn't.
CTP powered up in the system will give you plenty of votes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
And
the
that's
ratio.
and that's the other thing we talked about. It was just like, guys, it's like literally you put, it doesn't come to us. It's not like you buy CTP and it comes to us. Buy $5 worth of CTP off the market, power it up in listeners, and you'll have plenty of voting power. So, and then the more you stake, the more you're going to earn passively, which you just keep staking, and you'll have unlimited voting. So it's we're still trying to get it perfected. So, you know, work in progress. But thank you for the question, Tokenized. Don Pappy, who was our big winner last week, he's up. Task made a really good point about opportunity of changing your financial future with Hive in 5 years. Let's say someone opens a Hive account today, starts with 0 HP, and consistently posts 5 times a week for 5 years. In your opinion, how far would he go? In my opinion, you just need to look at Taskmaster's account and look at my account because that's basically what we did. I started with nothing on this blockchain. Task, pretty sure, started with a big fat zero and just posted 5 times a week. Well, more actually, 7 times a week, 14 times a week for Task, 7 times a week for me, and it's been almost 5 years. I'm sure it's been almost 5 years for you, Task.
August of 2017. So it'll
So
be 5 years in a few months.
yeah, so that's how far I think you could go. Now, if you're putting up really bad content that's really not pulling engagement and doesn't really attract people and you're not engaging, you know, it probably won't go very far. But if you are invested in the community, if you're spending the time creating and delegating your Hive power to different projects and you're being part of communities and you're out there being seen, I think the sky's the limit in 5 years. So
Well, and also we talked about the change. I mean, if you're doing that and you're doing it through the Leo Finance front end, or you're doing it on CTP, you're doing that every day, 5 to 7 times a week, you are going to get on the radar of myself in Leo Finance. You're going to get on the radar of One Alpha. You're going to get on the radar of the Leo voter team, or on CTP. You're going to get on the radar of Blaine and Eliana and people like that. And so, where is your account going to be in 5 years? Well, in those tokens, it's going to be huge. And on top of it, those people's upvotes also have some high power behind it. So you'll be rewarded in high power. And, it just all keeps building. And then, as John said, you take some
Mm,
HP and delegate it to Leo voter and you build your Leo stake. Then you take your Leo stake and you go buy Cub with it and put it in the kingdoms and you get more Cub, then you get an airdrop. I mean, it just keeps the tentacles just keep going and going and
exactly.
going.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's just that's the power of compounding, and we keep beating the same dead horse, and it's freaking glue by now, but we're going to keep beating it. Show up, be consistent, let time work for you. Don't look at this as oh, where am I going to be in 2 months? Look at it. Where are you going to be in 5 years? And
Right.
how do I get from zero or a little to a hell of a lot? And if you don't have money, that means activity. And
Yeah.
so the first
Exactly.
goal, my opinion is your first goal is to get to 100 high power. So that way you have enough resource credits that you can just go hog wild and just comment your ass off because that's how
Right.
you get noticed and you'll get a little bit earned there. Then you do your blog posts each day and then you get involved with listeners and like you said, buy $5 worth of CTP to stake it there and get involved with listeners and grow from there and
Mm,
just start working your way up the scale in different projects. Go join Splinterlands and watch some of the videos about how to do a daily quest or listen to me how to do a biannual quest.
Annual quest by Taskmaster. Yeah.
But you do that daily quest, you're going to get rewarded and stuff. Okay, it's not going to make you rich, but then you can start taking that and building in your splinter lands and maybe growing your base there. And you can do the same thing with decrops and all these different things. There's a lot of ways to start branching out.
Mm, yep. Good question. Good answers. Finally, our last question of the week from Tom. This is Alente. He wants to know, what are your favorite tokens to stack? I'll give you one guess.
Well, I earn my high power. I power it up. I'm putting HBD in my savings account each week. I'm big into Leo. Right now I'm stacking X Poly. So that's where my Leo's going. I all my rewards that I get of CTP are moved onto listeners and are staked there. All my listeners' earnings are staked there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that's really my major focus is right now. I mean, it's I get other stuff coming in, and I'll get extra bro here and there, or some extra things here and there, and I don't sell them,
Mhm.
but those are the main ones.
It all starts on Hive Power for me. And then the trickle down, just like you said, you're taking the Hive Power, you're putting it into Leo Voter pays you Leo, you're stacking Leo, but you're also flipping it into Cub. Cub flips into Poly Cub. You're also getting just tons of stuffs. But to me, yeah.
Here's something else to do a little self promotion. Check out Taskmaster 4450, that account, the post today. I wrote about HBD and what Cal and Polycub is planning on doing. They're setting up liquidity pools for both HBD and Hive. We talked on CTT yesterday, which I don't know when that'll be up, about Hive savings bonds. Don't know when that'll roll out, but you got the Hive Savings Project, which your program, which pays 12%. That may or may not be increased at some point by the witnesses. And keep in mind, you have Speak Network with the SIP, where the Hive that goes in there for the miners are going to be locked up. Then you get a liquidity pool with Hive on Polygon. And if you get some of these HBD things going, the only way we're going to get a lot of HBD is by conversion from Hive to HBD.
Hmm.
The reason why I bring all of this up, that effectively could turn Hive into a deflationary token So the more high power that you have staked as a percentage of the whole, if it turns into deflationary token, which it did for a few months last year. In fact, I think according to Dell's numbers, we actually had less Hive at the end of 2021 than we did at the beginning of 2021. That means your high power as a proportion of the whole actually increased. So those are things to keep in mind when John says, you get that HP, that's the starting point. It may also be that a lot of the value in Hive ends up over the next 6 months being converted to HBD as that stable coin starts to extend its tentacles. There's some food for thought.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Guys, that's it. We did it. Episode 101. And
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to count the episodes all the way throughout the year till we get to 200? Are you going to count them each?
Oh yeah.
Show?
Every single episode. Yeah. Yeah. Look at all the big podcasts. It's episode 725.
No, I know you post that, but are you going to say it? Are you going to keep track of it? Because
yeah. Because I'm weird like that.
The first year you didn't. You didn't say, "Well, this is episode 73."
Because I didn't remember it. Like now that we're so close, like I'll remember episode 100 and 101.
Yeah, you'll episode 102, but by
115, I'm not going to remember.
You'll be lost.
Yeah, like episode 115, I'm not going to remember. Like I won't.
Okay.
It's just because yeah. And
so you won't remember. Like I can't remember the Project Blank name.
I just work here, man.
I hope you do more than that. You're the brains of the operation.
Oh, yeah. If I'm the brains of the operation, this operation is going down.
Fortunately, we got a loyal following that keeps us propped up.
15 million listeners strong, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the CryptoManiacs podcast and at the live stream. Thank you for coming, hanging out. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday with Jimmy. Toodles.